the dark, spinning tales from the void never bark. Movie shows, they tear apart. Dimensions clash, they ignite the spark. Couch debates, turn the volume up. Set the chaos over for the cup. Alien worlds and twisted scenes. Banter spreads like electric dreams. Outer dimensions ride the wave. Trying days set flames ablaze. Discussing bits and cosmic plays. Beyond the stars they find their praise. They find their praise. Ripping through the deep.
That's right, guys. The Outer Dimensions podcast has returned. The Brothers of Deconstruction have returned. Dre and Dave, and welcome for the first time ever, Brick Something or Other.
I like house, as we said backstage.
Bring
Yeah.
something or else. Get it
Or
straight.
else.
Or else. There you go. Brick Something or else.
We'll fight 'em.
Happy to be here.
So, guys, Outer Dimensions podcast has been gone for about a year. We took a year. We had a lot of crazy things going in all of our lives, but we are back. And hopefully better than ever. We are going to be branching out with a lot of different things this year, guys. We are not just sticking to movies. We're going to be sticking to TV shows, movies, you name it. We're going to claim it. I mean, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. And got to say hello to people in the chat. Beta Ray Bob, thank you for popping through the stream. Hope you're going to have a great time with us tonight. And don't forget, guys, we are, just like we did before, we're going to adapt these episodes into audio podcasts so you can catch those in the future as well. It just may be a few weeks before we get those rolling again because we have to re-access our databases. We were doing Spotify before, so we're going to see if that's going to be the case. We got Ultra Carzilla in the house. And Ultra Carzilla is in the house, and I will continue saying this, Dave. I still wish WWE gave you the rights to Bobby Roode's theme song. I told you I will do that on Tuesday Night Talks one of these weeks. I promise.
He needs to. And we're going to apologize in advance, folks. As good as my internet's being hardlined to the main computer, I'm getting kicked out. It's probably because this house doesn't like us. Because as you can see behind me, folks, it looks like an absolute mess because we're getting ready to move. So
This
in
house
2
is
weeks'
safe.
time, so what was it, on February, I think that'll be the 5th or the 6th episode. Okay. That episode will be from the new office in the new house, where you guys will get to see some stuff actually on display. So the hot toys y'all been seeing, like Dave has me jealous of, will be on display, my brothers and sisters.
That I have you jealous of. You're the one with the Captain America with the big wingspan, man. So you can shut that down.
I cannot but dig him out and Bucky.
And your Doctor Strange, your Iron Strange you have.
Oh, my goodness. Let's not even talk about that. I'm foaming at the mouth. There's 18 hot toys that breathe air.
Yes.
And my rest of my stuff.
But
I say thank you.
But Dre,
I apologize for the mess.
I think when you move into the new house, we need to do a Poltergeist episode.
You know what? I was about to say that real quick. When you were talking about
this house is safe.
Yes, when you were talking about the house and everything, the house hating you, I was like, ooh.
And I mean, you do have a little one that's like a Carol Ann. I'm just saying.
Well, we've actually and Brick knows this because we've talked about culture and being of when you're of Asian and Hispanics, we have a lot of belief in mysticism.
Oh yeah.
And I've already bought
I'm just a honky.
Water. I got the holy water. The rooms are going to be blessed. I got to do my little prayers and a little sage.
Bring in the coins. Put the coins in the corner.
Bring the bagua mirrors and put them in the wind. I got to do all the feng shui because, folks, if you don't believe in it, you don't want.
Hey! Salt the windows. Salt the windows, okay?
Well, I could salt the window. I'll just put a bagua mirror. That'll keep all the bad.
Okay, Sammy.
Well, I will just.
I'm
say
supernatural, so hey.
Right. When folks move, they say that when they start packing up and sometimes construction, that can often trigger ghosts.
That's very true. So we're going to be.
That's what they say. I don't know.
Hey, listen, I've seen it happen. So we're going to be. Dave's got it. Look, I got the vet.
Hey, I can send a couple traps his way, so I got him covered.
Exact facts.
Some other day we'll talk ghosts. I have some.
Oh no, I do have just so people know, Brick is going to be coming back in a few weeks for another episode that we're going to be doing. That's geared more toward the teacher-esque kind of thing because it's a vibe that we both are teachers, or I used to be. So we're going to be coming. He's going to be coming back for the Hero's Journey episode, and any other episode he would like to come back on. He's always welcome, and you can be too, as long as you give us a prior heads up and like kind of can deal with the time frame. We're always welcome to have anybody that wants to talk about the stuff that we love to talk about.
By the way, guys, I want to Rolando, the multiversal moderator. Those that don't know, he just had a birthday this week. You know,
Feliz cumpleaños a ti.
Rolando, I hope you had a great birthday. I think it was like this past week or the week before, but happy belated birthday as always.
We got Mirage.
Yep, we got Mirage. Yep.
Oh, you know it. You know it. It's got to be Tokusatsu. It's got to be your boy, the Sentai Sensei, baby.
So the Outer Dimensions podcast, we don't have rules per se. We kind of just chop it up. We do have a little bit of organization, and there it is right there. So Dre, why don't you break it down for everybody? What is our plot for this week?
All right. So I wanted to, after being on Brick Show, you all know I love it. This is one of my passions. I'm trying to think of how to word it.
Okay.
Like I'm just trying to think of how to word it. Being on Brick Show, it just tapped more into my passion, my love for the love of Sentai and Tokusatsu. And for anybody that knows, you know, this stuff is prime real estate for fandom. A lot of people love the action figures, the role play stuff. But people forget about it the older they get because they're like, it's too campy. But then you can watch a Bruce Campbell film and say that's cult classics. Well, these are cult classics to me. I know Brick, who... Yeah, see, the poltergeist has gotten me. Anyway.
I was gonna say, you're in and out, man. You're
bad
juju over there.
I know. I put the bad juju out there. I'm trying to put the good juju. Please, bless the stream, spirits. Let me stay on. So, in any event, we're going to talk about various times. This is going to be the first of this series. 2 shows and their American and Japanese counterparts, and why they either were successful or why they failed. Everybody knows Power Rangers, so I'm steering clear of that. We're going to talk about the more obscure shows, and this one is VR Troopers. Everybody knows it. It's a widely common show, and we all know that when we first saw it. Dave, if you want to move to the next slide.
I don't want to, but I will.
All right. Well, thank you.
I mean, we are VR. I mean, come on.
You know, everybody knows the theme song. Do not copyright us. I would love to play it, but we'd be copyright struck for it. So obviously, VR Troopers was a combination of shows. The Metal Men Saga. Because a lot of people don't know that they're like, especially me, when I first saw it, I was like, oh man, this is cool. And I didn't know anything about Japanese shows till I became, seasoned, an adult, and then found out about it. So this series ran for, crap. I'm gonna have Dave do it. Dave,
are you there?
Dave, here's what I want you to do. I want you to lead in, and then you're gonna lead in, and then if I have to jump in, I'll jump in.
Okay. Well, Saban's VR Troopers obviously ran from 1994 to 1996. First aired September of 1984, which is actually, I believe, about a year after Power Rangers. So it was running on the coattails of Power Rangers, and ironically, we would see some faces of this cast transition over to Power Rangers for little stints in the later seasons. I believe season 3 of ZL, yeah. But the concept of this was a little bit interesting. I kind of liked it because we weren't dealing with teenagers. We were dealing with 20-somethings. These kids were not bound to school. They had jobs. Of course, the lead character, played by Brad Hawkins, Ryan Steele. Ryan Steele, and it's Steele with an E.
With a jawline to kind of match.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
And, it was the 90s, so he was always rocking like a t-shirt with the little suede vest over it, the rolled up sleeves. Yeah.
When not wearing a gi. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
When not in the studio.
Because he was our karate fighter. He was our karate hero. Obviously, I think he was the actor who was hired because he had some karate talent. The others, not really so much, because you can see it in their stunts. The delayed kind of maneuvers when they're in their civilian forms, the actors really weren't that great at fighting, except for Brad Hawkins. You had, of course, he was the fighter. He was like the professional karate expert who lost his father years ago, and there's these little sentimental flashbacks to his father, and an illusion that perhaps his father is alive. Of course, you got Sarah Brown, who played Caitlin, and honestly, I kind of was jonesing for her back in the day. Real talk. I was in high school, so yeah. She works for like a news station, like a video news station, kind of like a media blast kind of a situation where, with a really weird kind of wacky boss, Woody. Yeah, he was just deranged. He was part of the comic relief. He was kind of like our Bulk and Skull wrapped into one. And then, of course, we had JB, who was our, I hate to say it, but for that time, he was like the ethnic token. I hate to say that.
He was the minority actor.
Yes. And, he happened to be a tech person, too.
A brother of color. Sure.
Okay. Now, and that's not to take away from, they had a professor who was in cyberspace, who is restricted to cyberspace, who apparently was best friends with Ryan's father. And there's a lot of mystery with that. And of course, we do have a sensei who is a little bit comic relief, a little bit father figure, almost Miyagi-esque.
Can I just say something aside?
Yes.
Does he not look like Jay? You see him, if you were to put a hat on, he looks like Jay. Shout out to you.
Maybe if you age Jay another 10, maybe 10 or so years, maybe, yeah. So yeah, he definitely has the beard and some of the physicalities, but and that's the thing, you had that, and then you had the big bad, which was, I mean, he was, you know what a lot of this reminded me of? A lot of this reminded me of later seasons of Power Rangers. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because you had the big bad who was this business mogul who, he went into cyberspace and he unlocked his demonic look, because he was this big, he was Grimlord, that was his name. It reminded me.
Just real quick, they never called it cyberspace at that time. I think
virtual reality.
It was virtual reality.
Yes.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they're heavy on virtual reality. Like, of course, our main cast would wear these visors, and they would be like, oh. I mean, that was the whole thing. It was 1990s. We had the Lawnmower Man, and Saban was like, hey, can we twist this around? Give them special suits and powers, and that's kind of the route they went. I mean, I will say this: some of the writing maybe was a little bit better than some Power Ranger seasons. Some of the acting maybe might have been a little bit better, but not great. We had a talking dog named Jeb that sounded kind of like a Jack Nicholson kind of character. It was just really, really bad. I mean, it was entertaining for if you're in high school, you're in junior high, it was entertaining because compared to what we had at the time, I mean, it was cartoons, and for live action, it was kind of like this and Power Rangers. The music, you could tell, was straight off the same people who did Power Rangers, obviously. The vocal music, the score, the instrumental music, everything was just about the same. I do want to pull up a few comments in the chat. We got Mirage saying Common Rider Skull for life. There you go.
Oh, yeah, he's going for the good one.
Don't forget the talking dogs. Yeah, I just mentioned the talking dog.
Yeah, we don't
Jeb. I mean, it was a weird little bit comic relief. I like how the show made VR seem so advanced, but the best back then maybe would have been Virtual Boy. Yes, I remember that one. For me, my visual acuity doesn't allow me actually to do VR or 3D.
Ah.
Little side note. So I would be an outcast in that universe.
Dave would have been their tech support. He would have been the man. He would have been the man in the chair.
Hey, watch it.
Hey, listen.
No. I would have been the guy. No, I would have been the guy in virtual reality inside the computer. I would have been the professor. But I mean, I like some of the concepts. Like instead of Power Rangers, where we had teenagers in high school, we had 20-somethings, which was nice. Also, the bad guys had vehicles and like they had like modified jeeps and regular like land vehicles like we would have, but with weapons. We didn't really see that in Power Rangers. So there was some subtle differences to it. There were some pluses and minuses. And as far as the acting of Ryan Steele, I swear to God, I hear echoes of Iron Fist in my head from the Netflix series. He sounds just like the kid who played Danny Rand in the Netflix series. Okay, he's even got the blonde hair and just like
they both got the same charisma.
Just it's cringe. Definitely identical. I swear they could be brothers. Could be father and son by now. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, because Ryan was like, so most of these actors, a lot of people don't realize like the Power Ranger actors were in their teens. So Ryan, again, like this is an older cast. So you're looking, these guys were in their like early to mid 20s when the show started, which was a step away from the trope that Saban was trying to do. And again, remember, this is Saban. Saban was going to anything Japanese that had no American licensure. That's going to play a key factor in how we see things are going to go kind of as a trope throughout, or I should say, not even a trope, as a main factor is why Saban failed here in America and why Hasbro.
Bye, Dre.
They don't like me talking about it, but until Hasbro came and got me. So Hasbro doesn't like hearing that they're getting the reason why they took over and it was so successful. So one of the major reasons for their cancellation was they ran out of footage, which is not a true factor. At the time they ran out of footage, Metal Men was not as wildly popular in Japan, and it was mostly done for movies. At that point, from I would want to say 92 till about 2011, they were giving maybe 5 or 6 more films were made. And it wasn't till Gokaiger in Japan that we even saw a revitalization of Space Sheriff Gavan, which is one of the main characters in the Metal Men series, where they revitalized his character and they did a crossover event. Which eventually, if you guys have never watched Gokaiger, please watch it. Captain Marvelous, great character, love the actor, great Sentai show. The American version,
now
I'm gonna leave my reservations for it because it was hot trash.
Now, Dre, I believe we need to do an honorable mention because before VR Troopers, we did have a failed pilot.
Oh God, yes, we talked.
Okay, and I'm bringing it up right now. Here we go. With the late great Jason David Frank. There was the Cybertron show. Okay, which featured the sensei. They brought him back. They brought the sensei back. There you go. You see JDF right there. And that's the same sensei. That's the same suit. They just recycled it and passed it on. They recast it and just retweaked some of the writing a little bit. So yeah, that was the whole thing.
Now I will
kind of crazy.
Besides Dave bringing this up, and I don't know if Rick knew this. I actually had to do my homework on the Metal Men series. I've known of them, but I didn't. You know, when we do these shows, you guys know I like to educate.
Metalda, right? Super Android Metalda.
Yeah, they're all like super androids. They're either robots, androids, or humans that don a robotic armor. Like Kikaider and Space Sheriff Gavan. And there's so many more series that you'll see that we'll go into. And this, they say that like Saban was also having issues because supposedly some of the Japanese companies were like doing cease and desists because he was starting to use their footage and it was starting to gain popularity. and they were remaking the toys, but under different, obviously, and that's a whole licensing under Bandai Namco, which is Bandai Namco makes all the cosplay props. Every driver, every device has been made by Bandai Namco for damn near 50 years. So you could not suddenly get that here in Bandai Namco, see that and not say red flag, flag on the play, we have a problem. And that was the start of his problems. Now, not to mention, we're going to go into like the Beetleborgs and Kamen Rider and all that other stuff. But let's go to the next page of this.
Real quick, as far as you're saying with the reason for cancellation, like it wasn't exactly that. You're right that the Metal Hero series sort of like kept going, but they weren't necessarily like the same series. In other words, like it's specific, like the three ones that they got, like I always want to say it with a German accent, Spielbahn, right? Because it sounds like Spielbahn. Jiku Senshi, but it's like those three were all part of the Metal Hero series, but they didn't actually last more than a year themselves. So so if they wanted to kind of use the same suits, they did sort of run out of footage, unless they would continue with the Metal Heroes and things would shift a little bit, change a little bit.
Kind of like the formula they did with Power Rangers here in the States. Exactly. Eventually they started doing one season Power Rangers serials. Adapting off of Sentai for years and years and years. So, yeah.
Right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's how he looked at it.
Right. Okay. And, I don't know if, like, it makes sense that, we ran out of footage. But you're right. That didn't stop, the Power Rangers broadly franchise. Yeah. They found other ways. I think, I don't know I never looked into, like, what the reception was like or the, compared the ratings at the time. But I'll tell you from my end, I admittedly barely could watch Power Rangers, but I did just because it was like the closest thing we would get to be able to watch like a lot of sort of Sentai characters. But I struggle with watching VR Troopers. I'm a little older.
I was
not by much. You and I
are Brick. How old are you?
I was born in 76, so 94.
Okay, you got 2 years on us.
But I was in college versus high school.
Yeah.
And then when Power Rangers started, I was like towards the end of high school.
Going into college.
And so like, I was kind of like transitioning, and it wasn't even just a matter of like I wasn't, nerdy anymore. There were like real life reasons. Like when I moved to Santa Barbara, where I went to school, they only get one channel. Like if you had back in the day, kids, we had to have these things called antennas. So
yes, sometimes with aluminum foil.
Right. I grew up in LA. I had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 11, like 13. I had a bunch of channels. And then I moved and not to mention cable, but then I moved to Santa Barbara and they literally have one broadcast channel that you can watch. I was in college, so I wasn't paying for cable. So like, admittedly, I wasn't even able to enjoy this if I wanted to, right? Yeah. I couldn't stick with it. But what I did see, I saw quite a bit, especially during summers, because I was like, hey, this is cool. It's tokusatsu stuff. It's like, I want to see it. But then, I really struggled with the localization, the American parts. And I'm not unfamiliar with that. I grew up with like maybe the godfather of this sort of thing, which would be Gatchaman or Battle of the Planets, G-Force, where they took Gatchaman from Japan and they brought it here and they reworked.
I mean, hell, Voltron.
And then eventually Voltron after that. Yeah. But like I grew up with that thing, and Voltron, I think, did a much better job of doing localization.
Oh, yes.
I kind of like their version. G-Force was like, it was fine. It was compared to...
Yeah.
It was good, like from as a kid.
Yeah.
But they just really like, you spend so much time in the sort of unsuited drama of the martial arts school and the little brothers who are, bratty and the new, like you spent so much time there that it was hard for me to like be able to sit and watch the whole thing, to wait for the cool Japanese stuff. So
now, I obviously we know VR Troopers turns Brick's stomach. Dre, what was your what was your
So I'm gonna go a couple of different routes with this one, because it was It was Saturdays when they would air this. So
Okay.
this was on Saturdays for me here. When I was in New York, it was on Saturday mornings. So I used to go train in martial arts, and then I would have to tape it to watch it afterwards. So I would watch it on Saturday mornings. That's the way I was exposed to it. And then I remember they tried to do it on weekdays, and it didn't work out with Fox, because I know Fox is the one that was putting it out before
Fox Kids.
Yeah, it was on Fox. It was before Fox Kids for me. I remember they would do this, and I was like, okay, and I was into it. I never got the toys. I didn't find the cosplay stuff. I just wasn't into that aspect of it. What got me as a martial artist myself was the martial arts aspect. It was like them fighting, and I liked the technology, the sci-fi aspect.
Yep.
That's what it got me. But then when I started getting into Power Rangers drew me, and I'm not gonna lie, I had Amy Jo Johnson to look at.
Yeah, you know what though? But for me, if you put Amy Jo then and Sarah Joy Brown, I would still go for Sarah.
I'm biased because I got to meet Amy Jo Johnson and hug her in real life.
I'm sure you did.
My sister. No, my sister actually got us a picture at GalaxyCon. That made my day.
But you know what though? Of the actors from VR Troopers, she's the only one to actually go on to have a legitimate career. She did the little story arc on Power Rangers Zeo with Tommy, and she broke Tommy's heart, but Tommy was always running away, but he got Catherine, so consolation prize. But she went on to go on to General Hospital for many years. So she did have a good paying acting gig. And,
Amy Jo, or we're talking about Sarah?
Sarah Jo. Sarah Joy Brown,
Yeah, and now Sarah's working as an editor for a podcast now.
Yeah.
She's like 46, I think. She's on it.
Yeah.
She's 46 years old.
Yeah.
She's not, and she's married, has kids.
Yeah. But she was also thick in the right spots too.
I will say there was something about the other two actors, the two dudes. They looked a little, I don't know. I mean, and it was the 90s. If you're watching TV at the time, you're coming out of the end of sat through 90210 for however long it went, and there was for a young actor.
They were like stand-ins for California Dreams or The Heights or one of those shows at the time.
Oh, God.
Yes, but like the cardboard version, if there's such a thing. They felt a little like
would they be the teeny version now, or the Wish version of the Carrot Power?
Listen,
when I say Wish, I don't mean to be clear, I don't mean like they looked, I don't know, broke or whatever, broken or anything.
Saying that they're two-dimensional, I think, is being nice. I would have said one-dimensional.
But they just felt a little too
flat.
Flat and plasticky. Not just their acting. No offense. I mean, I know people work hard, but they were a little too
not hard enough
catalog
compared to I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to apologize. This is what we want.
No, I'm apologizing to them because they're human beings. Yeah, they're human beings. Who am I? But it's just an awkward thing to say. Anyways, moving on.
Well, I love what Mirage is putting here. You guys never went to a temple and just stand there thinking of your missing dad who hasn't gotten back from getting the milk.
I know, or even worse, somehow that temple was perfectly perched on a cliffside.
Oh yes,
overlooked the ocean, and it was always sunny, never cloudy. That sun was perfect. I mean, Saban, I'll give it to him. He was a businessman. Granted, his techniques, and I think we need to do a whole show dedicated to what he's done.
Him as a person is someone that's going to burn in some kind of an afterlife at some point. But yes, I mean, he knew how to grab onto something and milk it to the point where, I mean, hell, he took Sentai, Americanized it, and milked it for how many friggin' years? 30 some odd years?
And sold it to Disney.
Bought it back from Disney, sold it to Hasbro, and now it's effectively on life support with another toy company. There is no shows or nothing in production, even though there's rumors of a movie, but we all know movies can be in movie development hell for years to come.
Cough.
Listen, some producers always trying to ice skate uphill, okay? That's all we're going to say about that.
I'm saying. So let's move on to the next page. Of the
Yeah, because somebody's got to make a name for themselves.
facts.
Okay, so the next slide was talking about the style of the show. Main character would be a human android cyborg. We pretty much cover that.
So Dave, if you want, I'll do the names because I know you don't speak Japanese and I'm not going to insult you, but you can't. I'd rather try to get as close enough to the non-American gaijin style.
He's trying to say this honky can't pronounce it. Go right ahead.
Okay, this is no. I love Dave. He's my brother. Y'all know that. But when it's like that's like telling him, can you translate something in Spanish and say the Spanish name? I would feel bad and remiss. So,
and if I actually pronounce it well, he would have to shut the hell up.
I would shut the fuck up at that point. Yeah, we're late night, folks. I could drop that F-bomb. Oh, but anyway.
Listen, motherfucker.
All right, so no, VR Troopers was based on the following 3 shows: Shojinki Metalder. Oh, fuck me, that it's gonna be. I'm gonna be loud. Yes, I'm cussing up a storm. So it's Shojinki Metalder, which translates to the people I wanted to. It translates to Superhuman Machine Metalder. 39 episodes. That's how much he was able to milk the show. Jiku Senshi Spielbahn. Dimensional Warrior Spielbahn.
There you
go. I don't know why. Yeah, I want to do the same thing. It's that German thing.
It needs a German. I can't do it in Japanese. Even with I looked at the katakana and I was like, it's Spielbahn. And I'm like, nah.
If it was German, would it be Spielbahn?
Spielbahn. But I digress. And then
we're going to hell for that.
Uchu Keiji Shaida, which obviously is Space Sheriff Shaida, and this is the kind of the preemptive character that you would eventually see him pass the mantle to Gaban, and Gaban would then show up, and he had I think about 3 or 4 movies, and we're going to talk about the Metal Raider series. There were 7 movies for Shaida, which that also spawned off Chikaider and several other Sentai shows, which I know I'm never going to.
And that's what he gets.
I love doing that. It's like when I get pulled back in, it's like I got New Day Rock. So obviously, I'm not going to insult anybody by saying that the shows were not good. They were. I have actually the complete Spielbahn, and I have the Schneider series complete, and I've watched them. They're so damn good. The stories are just.
Mirage talking about the Shaders actor.
Yeah, I know that was sad. I heard that. What was it? I followed this guy on IG that talked about people that passed away over the years. Sentai lost a lot of people last year. For anybody that doesn't know, we lost a lot of good actors, voice actors, and designers last year in the Tokusatsu community. So RIP to the gentlemen and ladies that donned these suits. And several of them actually moved on to do other careers. One of the ladies that was actually on, it was Spielbahn. She actually went on to become a firefighter, in Japan. And then it's ironic that her actress in America became a firefighter as well. So I was like, wow, talk about weird synergy going across the world. You're a firefighter here in the U.S., and then the lady that was the actress over in Japan did the same thing. But when you watch these shows, they draw you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say you and Alanis Morissette need to work on your definition of irony. But anyways, keep going.
Okay. Oh, I love it. Look at that. He's got to teach the teacher. I love it. Get me. Oh, look, you got Dave. Look at David and Sam. Look at that. Folks, this is all new. I love it. Y'all been wanting it back. So, Rick, I want to get your opinion on this because I know you're a huge fan of this stuff and you bought the toys. You didn't get into this merchandise at all when it was on American television.
No.
So would you buy the merchandise now, not the Americanized stuff, but would you buy the 100%. Japanese version?
I mean, I would buy the American stuff too. Like if we're talking about the suits, because it doesn't matter. I love the designs. I'm just always intrigued by the way the Japanese eyed said, how they kind of translated their superhero culture or their whatever, the cyborg culture. I just always thought that it was so unique and just different from what I was growing up around here in LA in the United States. So
what was that merch? What?
Yeah. So
sponsor us.
I would definitely love to find, they don't make them unfortunately in sort of the format that I like. If I was doing true 112 stuff, like SH stuff that you and I talked about, I would be broke, but also just like I would go to town with all of this stuff. Some of it they make, some of it they don't. But like I specifically ended up with this line, which is the Bandai SIC line, because it's bigger and slots right in with like US version of 112. But they look cool, man. I mean, I'm into this stuff so much so that like there was I think it's still a mobile game, but there was this Power Rangers game that I got really into, and I played on my iPad. It's like super simple. You pay 3 buttons, but it's like a fighting game kind of. It's like silly. You're just hitting the button at the right timing. But the animations were cool, and it covered a lot of the Power Rangers stuff, including some of these characters.
Oh wow!
And you could unlock things, of course, by playing certain things, and eventually you'd unlock it. But man, I spent way too much money on DLC just to unlock all the different characters because I just love the way they look. So that was like the closest I got to kind of like collecting this stuff.
And he's right, folks. Just so you know, I'm going to interrupt quickly. I apologize, but he's right. Adult collectors now here, if you wanted to get a Kiter figure, it is only in 1/6 scale. 3/0 makes it. It's a $400 figure up for pre-order right now. If you want a Kiter figure or Ultraman. So, I mean, they're beautiful. I would totally get it if I didn't have other expenses in my life.
But, I love this stuff. And to maybe go back, I know you were kind of on a point there, but to go back to the Saban of it all and to give him some credit, or maybe not him, but him and the editors and the creative folks who worked on it. Like, literally, they were taking from 3 different series and finding cuts and working things in to make it work. And I mentioned collage work. That in and of itself is like an art form. You got to source the pieces, be familiar with your library enough to be like, okay, this will work. And I don't know how they worked, but I bet that scripts changed just to like based on what they had available, right? Like that probably guided some of the quote unquote storytelling. Sorry, that was a dig, but yeah.
No. I think you hit it right on the head, and it's something that Dave and I probably wouldn't have even thought of. What you said it best. It's the give credit to not the guy who stole the IP, but the guy that actually and girls that sat there editing the footage. Like, I mean, that's not easy. You have to sit there and you have to get the scenes right to create. I mean, and then lip syncing it to make sure that the audio catches over. I mean, that's hard.
I mean, anyone who's like even edited like a YouTube video can appreciate that, because if what you do for like cutting this clip and then I have to kind of shorten this up and cut this off, imagine doing that but on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
Which more high tech equipment, and then you have to also syncing up the audio tracks. I mean, there's so much that is my mind just explodes with the sheer thought of, could you imagine if one of us was sitting there trying to do it? I mean, they're masterful. And let's be honest, when it comes to action movies, with all due respect, the US, we can't hold a friggin' candle to anything coming out of Japan.
Well, no, Asia. Let's be fair.
Okay,
you could go
Asia. Okay,
Hong Kong.
HK for sure.
Yeah,
is the king. The Shaw brothers. I mean, you got to give the Shaw brothers dominated the Asian cinema scene up until
even the Thai stuff, man,
and even the Thai stuff with Tony Jaa and the Raid. All those films, and then you had like the crappy superhero films that were created in that series as well.
Yeah,
but you really have to like delve into these things, and I love the fact that I got somebody else here that equally has that level of interest and knowledge. Not saying Dave doesn't, but it's one of those things that I love being able to if you've watched it and seen it. Like we haven't talked about it, but we've hinted at it before, folks, when we talked about Asian horror and the comparisons of like Asian horror films, like The Grudge with The Ring, and how you can compare like apples to oranges and pretty much almost apples to baguettes, because you can't really compare the film series because they're so radically different.
And so I generally, like, I'm not even trying to just be politically correct about it, but I will say it's really hard to say compare one is better than the other because
Mhm.
they're just different. Like, and that's what I think this stuff that we're talking about, where you take Sentai shows and or Tokusatsu shows in general, and then you try and localize it. Like the products are not the same, and we're gonna see that when we talk Mouse Rider in a little bit. But like you can't like what is better, Super Sentai or Go Ranger or Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Like I can't have that conversation because they're very unique beasts, and you know I would say the same in terms of like
Well,
comparing like Western action versus
well, I'm gonna chime in and actually hang on Brick's coattails just a little bit with that thought. I started Dre knows this. I started watching because now we can find the original Sentai's episodes. There are channels on YouTube, and I've been watching them. Starting off with the original Mighty Morphin, and I caught the original Sentai that would eventually become Power Rangers Time Force, and many of those. I love how freaking dark they are.
Yeah.
And I love that there's just so much into it that I appreciate that a lot more. And also, after the last Power Rangers, Drake got me hooked on a little show, Boom Boomager, and I was digging that. And that's the thing. It's like what Saban did was it was good, but it was also a little bit more. It was in the light, and let's be honest. Those of us who are comic book people, those of us who are superhero people, we love the dark stuff. I mean, why do we love Batman? He has no powers. He has his smarts, but he's a very dark person who's out for vengeance. We love we love anything that's in a darker shade, but it gives more realism to it, I think, too.
Yeah, I'll just say that on that note, because I thought about this a lot too, and what my biggest issue with a lot of the localization of these things, whether it's Power Rangers or VR Troopers, is that it's very corny and campy is how they sort of treat some of the storytelling as well as the storylines, right? And I say that like in quotes, I guess, because if you do watch some of the Japanese stuff, there's camp there.
Oh yeah,
a little,
but there is.
But I'll just say what's tricky, what's hard for me to gauge is that I don't know Japanese and I don't have the same cultural references. So to me, like I'm losing the voices and in some ways the acting, right? So like I'm not gonna go there and go like, oh, this acting's corny, that dialogue sucks, so that's out the window. Versus like I'll tell you right now, a lot of like we're talking VR Troopers, so much of it is like, oh, the acting and the dialogue, like, oh, did they really just say that? And I don't know if that's how it is in Japanese because but what I do see is like, oh, damn, I get the impressions and they're fighting and they look cool, and I'm like,
well, I love what Mirage is putting here because Mirage lives in I think Brunei, if I'm correct. Yes. Now, he says, keep in mind, in Japan, Super Sentai is aimed at towards 3-year-olds, which is funny given the deaths, like a specific character in Time Ranger.
Oh, no, that's one of the very big tropes I've kind of noticed myself, when I got into Kamen Rider, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent for when I first got back, when I really got my exposure was actually in the Heisei era Kamen Rider. So we're talking. This would be post all the Showa stuff. So I'm Heisei. So Heisei era would be the late '90s, early 2000s. So for anybody that doesn't know, so there was lots of shows, and the first show that got me into it was
Flexing.
Kuga. That's Kuga, which is dope.
I knew what he was talking about, so I was like, yeah, here, Kuga. Yeah.
So I got into Kabuto, Kamen Rider Kabuto, which was the beetle. The beetle style where they used insects, and they had people die left and right in that show. And I said, and mind you, I was in my early 20s, early mid 20s when that show came out in America, or not in America, but in Japan. And I'm like, damn, they're just straight up. There's a kid show. It's a kid show, and they're straight up like, yeah, go get the new driver. And then I'm just like, but this guy just died. And then the episode after, it's like, oh, we're gonna go to his funeral, but we're gonna get our vengeance. And I love that the Japanese do not have any qualms in discussing these topics. Where in America, you didn't see any of this stuff till a movie. Like, you didn't kill a character. Like, Batman didn't show us blood till the animated series movie where Joker stabs Batman with a building.
Right.
And you see blood trickle down. It was the first time ever I saw blood in a cartoon. You didn't see that in Disney till Pixar did Up.
No, they just
recently.
kill your
I just
mom.
watched, and then they kill your mom, or they abuse your character in horrible ways. But in Pixar, Peanut wanted to watch Up, and I'm going off on this tangent for a reason, folks. You see blood, like the guy hits the dude over the head with his cane. The guy gets big ass gash on his head, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, this is a kids movie. Like, yeah, an adult's gonna bring a kid to the film, but you didn't see this in Shrek. You didn't see this in like Alvin and the Chipmunks. You see this in like, and I like that some companies.
It was in the non-rated cut.
And they're like, look, these are real world topics that people deal with. Death, theft, mom being like they've had characters have love interests and they break up. They talk about heavy topics in these 25-minute shows, and you don't see that in an American show. Now it's looked as woke, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent like that because me and Brick can totally go off on that tangent like we've done before, where people don't want to see things that they don't want to talk about. Like Power Rangers did a lot of liberties recently in their last few years of shows, where American eyes, which I'm happy they took like a little kind of nod from the Japanese and said, hey, we can have characters that are identifying in the LGBTQ plus community, and that they're putting these characters on television so people can identify with them. I'm all for that. But we need, I'm not saying we need this as a parent, because Brick and I've said this too, we have kids. Some kids you don't need to expose this to, but if the culture's already produced this, and this is what you're seeing, leave it the way it is. The source material tells you it's good. And I'm going to leave it at that, because I think...
Well, yeah. Well, let me...
And Dre's leaving it at that.
He's like that? Peace. He dropped the mic.
Could I have not written that any better?
I will say the other piece of it is, so it's talking about how like it's goofy, it's campy or whatever, and at least on the US end. And then when I watch the stuff from Japan, anything that might be like campy or whatever, it just translates different. So like, let's be real. If I'm watching a lot of this stuff, like it is goofy. I mean, it's like there's a goofiness to it, but you just sort of embrace it. It's like, oh, even the people in the big rubber suits that you're fighting, the monsters, there's a certain level of goof to the designs. Like in Kamen Rider, there's like, I mean, there's just weird creatures all throughout Ultraman or whatever. It's like there's all sorts of weird things, like monsters with cameras. For heads.
Cobain.
So it's just like, I feel like, I don't know. It's hard for me to totally compare the two. One. Also, the other piece is, I hear you, Dre, that whenever they translate things from Japan and they bring them here, it goes through an American filter of like whatever's happening at the time. So Gotcha Man, I mentioned earlier, they felt the need to have like a little robot, protector guy that the kids would be like supposedly feel like it's, he's cute. And they did the same thing in Power Rangers with their whole sort of like, what was his name?
Zordon and
sorry,
Zordon,
little robot,
Alpha.
Head, and Alpha 1.
Sorry,
no.
I was saying Seven's Arc 7
Alpha.
Seven's Arc 7 was like the template for Alpha. It was the same thing. Yeah. This team needs a robot, but it's because of like the sensibilities here, right? So that's why you don't see the death in the same way, because for whatever reason, and there's a bunch of reasons, like there's a sense that kids can't handle it, or I don't know if you remember back in the day when Mr. Hooper died on Sesame Street and they never showed that again, right? So like that's where we are. Versus in Japan, I'm no expert because I didn't live there, but I'm only assuming that like it's just different. They clearly don't trip on that. Just like I'll watch One Piece and like there's Sanji who's a pervert talking about homegirl boobs and stuff, but it's like on a kid's show, but there's also very deep stuff in there around death, around oppression, around freedom, and so it's like they seem to just really embrace the full palette of storytelling, Whereas I feel like here there's a lot more rails. I know there are rails in Japan, things that you can't talk about maybe, and like you talk about in a particular way. But it seems like we here definitely have a lot more of those sort of limits.
Oh yeah,
And
there's
so
committees upon committees
translation
that,
is
that do
yeah.
that they don't want you to talk about certain things because Lord help you, you
Yeah.
mentioned something that a kid gets interested in, and again that disinterests the kids even more. You know, like
Right.
we can go down the whole list, but when you look at like when you just mentioned it, but look at Kamen Rider Ryuki. Ryuki was brought over here to the U.S. and I remember it because it was not. It was the first time they kind of dubbed over the Japanese actors, and then they actually had no American actors. It was just dub, straight dub. And they edited out so much because if anybody doesn't know Kamen Rider Ryuki, it had the Mirror World. And the Mirror World was where demons came from. They Oni. They called them Oni in Japan. It's not like this was like Yugi, you're gonna go to the shadow dimension. No, this was straight up fucking evil.
Okay.
And that's why I love that the Americans didn't water it down as much, but they watered it down enough to get it to be on TV.
Well, I'm gonna go real nerdy real quick on some tokusatsu stuff, but on that note of like you just mentioned demons, right? Like Kamen Rider's filled with like the whatever dark is the name of the whatever organization, or if we go back to the first American Japanese sort of collaboration on this stuff that really like some of the roots of tokusatsu as we know it, or henshin stuff is tied to like some American pop culture. Spider-Man, right? Or Spider-Man, one of the like huge hit there. But people, I don't know if people pay attention to that, but if you read it, it's hilarious. He's like, from the forces of Satan, and like there's and throughout all this Kamen Rider stuff, there's all sorts of occult stuff. And I've always wondered, because again, I'm not rooted in Japanese culture, like to them, is it as dark and evil, or to them are they like riffing on stuff that they like saw, oh, like Americans are really into evil and demons and Satan, so we're going to call this thing Satan and bring it over here. Is that like the equivalent of us bringing ninjas into G.I. Joe? Like, I don't know. Like, they're not, So I don't know how dark it was to them, or if it was just sort of like a goofy thing. Honestly, I just don't know.
Isn't it apropos? Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, let's talk.
Watch the next slide. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
So for anybody that did not know, I absolutely love this show. And one thing that I was trying to hold back on, because Britt kept saying it, and I was like, I wanted to surprise him. I was like, I knew we were going to talk about this. And the reason that this had failed, and I'm going to make a comment about this culturally, Spider-Man failed in Japan at the time. And I'm going to say this because I'm going to preface this. It failed due to the fact that Japanese people at that time did not love costumed superheroes. That was not their thing. Ironic, though, because you love Kamen Rider and Metalder and all that was going on in the 70s, which you would characters that dress up in a different costume or change. But you look now, and one of the most popular manga for 5 years running that was beating out One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto, Boruto was Boku no Hero Academia, folks. My Hero Academia. And then you look at other shows like Hero Man. Hero Man was a Stan Lee crossover show that they made with Viz about superheroes. You've had so many hero sideshows, and Vigilantes is now being animated, all because of the love of superhero culture that's been happening because of the MCU. I'm not going to talk about the DCU, but look at Spider-Man.
Take a look at that right there. Last year, Marvel Legends and Hasbro actually released Japanese Spider-Man, and I'm still actually hunting for him right now, to be honest.
Are you serious? I bought you one for you. Oh, I got to buy that for you. Yeah. I'll get that for you. Totally thought that. I totally thought I got you one.
Yeah, but it's great to see that Marvel is like looking at this, and I want to bring up something. This is a little bit off color a little bit. While we were refreshing, and I was going on YouTube and checking out, looking up where I could watch the episodes, right? Sadly, I came across several, obviously, Westerners, probably North American reviewers, picking this show apart, saying that this is the most silly, most ridiculous Spider-Man to ever come out. And I couldn't help myself. I was on my keyboard. I was being a warrior. I said, well, obviously you've never really read the comic books. What about Bagman? What about Webhead?
Sure.
I mean, there are a whole plethora of Spider-Man that were just like, why? Just why did you do these storylines? Whereas this was, I mean, they, I know that, over in Japan, Stan Lee was trying to expand the Marvel brand, and this was one of the big ones, one of the big brands or big names that they serialized to try and make more money back then. And
Brilliant.
But they ran with the concept, they made it its own concept, and I actually enjoyed it. I liked it. But to see people kind of like say, oh, this is the most ridiculous. Oh, he's got this big massive bracelet. No, the bracelet is part of the whole canon. If you actually sit there and actually pay attention to the storyline, there's a whole mythos to this. It just happens to look like our traditional Spider-Man outfits with some slight differences. And that's the thing that I just can't wrap my head around. It's like, oh, you're calling it silly, but have you actually gone into attention? Have you actually gone into it, taken a look at the story, taken a look at, it is, okay, I will admit, a Spider-Man who has his own ship that turns into kind of its own mech and everything, it's a little bit different, but personally, I love that.
Diaclone.
I love that. Yeah, Diaclone, 100%. But I love the hell out of that. It
was a great concept, and
the suit being inside the bracelet, and bracelet kind of like his, or I call it a gauntlet, not a bracelet, but to have everything right there, that's a bit more convenient than Peter Parker had. He was trying to carry his stuff in a little knapsack.
Well, the story was really deep too. Like Takuya actually, he runs into a dying alien that's surviving. Basically, the Thanos wipe throughout the galaxy. Yeah, and he's like, I'm done.
And losing the professor.
I know, the Sentai Sensei, you lost me there. But when you think about it, Takuya sees this guy. He's dying. He's getting the Green Lantern treatment. Like, hey, take my powers, save the universe, save your planet. Yeah. And the other positive thing is Takuya's character still alive today. Big shout out to the One Piece mangaka for doing the one-shot Spider-Man series where he actually, it wasn't Peter Parker in Japan, it was Takuya. A young Takuya taking over the role in the manga. Takuya is also shown up in the new Octo Spider series manga that they have going on currently in Japan right now by Viz. And he's not the main character, but he's actually, Dr. Octopus's mind has been placed into a little girl, and now she's got spider powers and fighting variants of Dr. Octopus. I mean, I love it.
I love Allison's comment here. 100%. I mean, I see something like that, and that just I couldn't stand for that. And it wasn't just one channel. I found like a couple channels that were being. I'm like, seriously, just I don't know. It's just, but I agree.
We were talking earlier about the dark, and you're saying how like here we want a little bit more dark and gritty, and I think that's true. And I think the pendulum swings, and I think what I appreciate about Japan and Japanese pop culture in general is that it tends to err more on the side of acceptance of whatever than we do here, right? I think if you look at the landscape, even of anime, of like everything that's available right now and what is hot, like there's a range. So you mentioned like Academia, there's like Frieren, there's like Dungeon Meshi,
Kaiju number 8.
But they're different. They're all like, and so if I look at this picture right here, like I guess what I'm assuming those folks that you're referring to who are kind of reviewing it, like there's a resistance to the absurd, right? Where it's just like, no, man, that's part of it. It's like Dada. It's just like wild, whatever, whimsy. You know what I mean? And it's growing up here in the United States, it's weird because we had that. Like when I was growing up, really young, I remember watching Sid and Marty Krofft, right? Orlando the Lost.
Definitely.
And that got ripped off by McDonald's to do like McDonald's land. But like kids and And the
any
culture was great.
cartoon any of us have watched as kids, anything as kids.
Yeah.
Everything. Anything. Some stuff maybe doesn't age as well. I'll give points to that, sure. But let's be honest. Everything is cheesy.
Yeah.
If you go back to movies we watched as a kid, you know, if you go to, I'm trying to think of a good example. Think of like, okay, some stuff from Neverending Story was cheesy, but that's still always going to be a go-to for me. Some stuff doesn't age well, in so many different movies and everything. But and by the way, Beta Ray Bob, stay tuned. I love your comment and stay tuned to that. What are you holding up, Dre?
So this is
Yeah.
well, we've been talking about things. I was trying to look back because I put away a lot of the stuff off the bookshelf. But for anybody that has not read this, it's called Secret Reverse. It is by the mangaka Kazuyuki Takahashi. If you guys don't know who that name is, that is Yu-Gi-Oh's mangaka. He actually did the drawing for this, and it is a colorized Americanized graphic novel manga that they did of Spider-Man and Iron Man teaming up, and it's not Peter Parker. And this is dope. Again, like anime, and I'm gonna go quick into this because I don't want to deviate too far from Spider-Man. But if you have not watched
Hey,
the
Kenzo?
90s, if you have not watched in the, I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, we did the manga series. They had Wolverine, Blade, X-Men, and God, what was the other series? They did one, and Iron Man, and they did like manga anime, like 12-episode series, like Madhouse Studios. You can't find the DVDs; they're like ridiculously expensive on eBay. Blade was, I think, the best one because it actually paid an homage to vampires of different countries of Asia. So, like when Brick had made a comment about the Mythic Legion's head looking like the Aswang, I was like, oh, I know that. That's from Blade, and that was from how I knew that.
From Anime Blade. That's funny. Just in terms of like the whole absurdity, where I was going with that is like, it becomes silly. You're like, hey, that you were saying there's about the bracelet or whatever. It's like, oh, but the red and blue tights are okay, but whatever, right? Like at a certain point, it's funny where people decide that like, no, that's lame or that's realistic. But like, dude who got bit by a radioactive spider has now spider powers, and like, come on, it's all fun, it's all crazy. And I want to credit Stan Lee because, as I was saying, when you were talking about the move to like expand to Japan and everything, incredibly brilliant. He was actually looking like he went there, he saw what was happening on television, and he was like, I want to do this, and he tried to bring it here.
Yeah.
He basically tried to be Saban back in the day, but people were like, no, that's not going to work here, right? He was just maybe a little too early, which if we just pause for a second, imagine what he might have done differently when he was bringing stuff over.
Oh, yeah.
What Saban did. But that said, like the Spider-Man thing just is like, there's another piece of it because we're like toy people, right? What's so cool about that whole thing is they were like, well, Spider-Man, he's cool, but we can't sell enough toys of just this guy. Let's give him a robot. Let's give him a car.
Yep.
Like, that's just like from a toy perspective, I just think that's so incredibly cool. And they made it work. They built this whole like, lore up of him. So why he's got this ship and this robot, and I don't know. I embrace the absurd, and I think it's super cool. And I like that exchange, right? There's that exchange of like, hey, here's Spider-Man. What are you going to do within Japan? They do that stuff. We end up, what comes back here or whatever. Micronauts, Transformers. I don't know. There's some really cool stuff going back and forth. And for every, again, no offense, VR Troopers or Mask Rider, which we haven't gotten to yet, because but for every one of those, there is a Transformers G1. There is all sorts of cool stuff that comes back, and they localize Voltron. I think was actually really brilliant.
I agree with you.
Robotech, I'll go to bat for, even though I really love Macross, but like Robotech is dope. Like, so it's not just like, oh, Saban, that model is bad. No, I think it's a little bit more of the creativity, and I don't know. I think Saban was trying to do a particular type of business where he wanted it to be. I don't know. I think he was trying to. Like, he didn't really care too much about the art piece of it, and just wanted to make the money.
He was trying to corner the market.
What was that?
His big thing was trying to corner the market. He wanted to
Let it
like bleed it dry and keep it to where there's an obvious, like this is mine. Like his hand was all over that, and he could because, like you said, Stan Lee did that cultural exchange. If you guys don't know, there is a Sentai series called Jack, Ace, Queen, and Joker, and it's all based on Stan Lee's art design. So the main character is a shield. The main hero has a shield. It looks a lot like, and his name is King, and he looks a lot with the color scheme of Captain America. So for you guys that want to trash that show, fine, you can trash it. But
the woman in that was kind of like originally she was going to look a lot like Captain Marvel or Ms. Marvel at the time. Like, yeah, there was a lot of cool history and interchange there.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, and again, for those who
don't hate on Spider-Man,
this was 41 episodes. They did air it. You can watch it on YouTube, the whole series. It's great. The movie basically is like a recap with some new snippets in it. It's not really anything new. Let's go to the next slide, Dave.
Wait, one last thing. I just realized.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the absurdity. That's where I was going. In 2025, one of the coolest Spider-Man things ever is the Spider-Verse stuff. And Across the Spider-Verse, like, to me, embraces this kind of wildness, absurdity, right? In fact, he's kind of referenced in it. He's in it. So, I don't know. I feel like more and more audiences here are open to that kind of thing in a way that's not like for kids or whatever. I think there's like people are recognizing how that kind of fun, whimsical take and just sort of like all sorts of absurd ideas being thrown into our pop culture is, I feel like we're in that good place. And it also coincides with the fact that anime is like really crazy popular right now, particularly among young people, in a way that I think is going to completely transform what we consider pop culture here in the U.S. in the next 10 years. So.
Is it? Well, in Spider-Verse, I'm going to piggyback off what you just said. For anybody that doesn't know,
shocker.
Who doesn't love their boy Spider-Man?
Well, I mean, no, yeah, Brick, in case you're not aware, I'm sure you are. Dre loves, sleeps, breathes, consumes, fantasizes. He's got his own fan fiction and manga he's making for the Spider-Verse.
Nice.
I have.
I'm not going to bring up the hentai, but
oh man, you're going to give Dr. Octopus a whole other angle, huh? Okay, cool.
Hey.
Overfiend, Dr. Octopus crossover manga. It's happening, folks. So no, the idea that, like, you see that Brick was saying with the whole idea of like pop culture,
Yeah.
You see what's his face, the hip hop star. There was a hip hop star. I don't remember what his name. He was the Spider-Man that was the only one that wasn't red and blue themed. He was the one that had, like, you could see he had like cornrows that came out the back of his mask, and he had like the backwards like hat on, and he was like, yo, sorry, buddy, I didn't see you there. And it was like, he's in the very first Spider-Man movie, and second one, sorry, he's in the second one. He's in Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh, we're talking Spider-Verse, okay.
Yeah, and the reason I bring him up is because we look at, like you said, pop culture, like Spider-Man and Spider-Man, he's canon.
Yeah.
The Edge of the Spider-Verse, the video game, mentions him. He has been mentioned in the comics and Spider-Geddon. Yeah, he's been mentioned. Clayton Crane, if anybody knows who Clayton Crane
Leopardon was in the comics.
Leopardon was in the comics. And he was also in the manga Spider-Man. They mentioned him. So this has become a canonical character. We're seeing it. I'm loving it. And I think you're right. The Spider-Verse movie franchise is giving us that outlet to start talking about these characters more now. And I like that. I'm hoping that we actually see this next character kind of make that crossover, because they did have the cartoon character crossover into the movie. They've had the video game characters crossover into the movie. So, Dave, if you want to show that last slide,
And I'm sorry, I have to apologize in advance, guys, but this is my first live action Spider-Man.
yeah, this is. So, let's go.
Boom.
Oh no, man! Yeah,
The amazing
Nicholas
Spider-Man.
Hammond.
This is Dave.
Yep.
This is all Dave. When I first met Dave and we started talking about our love of Spider-Man, he mentioned this to me, and I had said, "God, dude, I was so like young in the early '80s. My dad probably watched this on TV. I probably sat with him and watched it, but I don't remember."
I mean, it premiered before either of us were born because we were born in '78. So, but I mean, and the thing is, it only had 13 episodes. I mean, and you get Nicholas Hammond, and the funny thing was, if you watch it, you're like, the one thing with the '70s big hair that people had, the big shags, you'd be like, how the hell did he fit it inside his hooded mask? Because wouldn't the mask be like all puffy, just crazy stuff like this? I mean, this was a Spider-Man who had a utility belt, a la Batman. Mm-hmm. And if you notice, he has one web shooter, only one, and it's on his right wrist.
Yep.
So it was a whole thing, and yeah, the webbing looked like a bunch of rope, and but I mean, for the '70s, it was kind of cutting edge. They spent a lot of money doing this stuff, and it was more like, I want to say it's more akin to if you took some of the Incredible Hulk and some of the Greatest American Hero from the early '80s and just kind of mashed it. That was kind of like a vibe going on, It was like the situation of the week. Mm-hmm. And they definitely took some liberties with some of the characters. But to me, I mean, this was our first live action Spider-Man. Is it the greatest? No, but it has its charm for the time period.
It's funny because I did catch episodes of this. Like I watched them on YouTube, and I would love for them to bring this into the Spider-Verse. I'm hoping and beyond that we do get to.
He's hoping and beyond.
Yeah, sure. I'm hoping and beyond the Spider-Verse.
You're glitching, man. You're glitching. You're in the wrong universe.
I'm in the wrong universe, folks. You didn't know that. But
I mean, he is alive.
I would love to see this film, this character make the film as an animated character, because if you can give the animated cartoon Spider-Man, who was wildly popular of the '90s, a spot in Beyond the Spider-Verse, this guy needs it. If Spider-Man can be a background character, and if Scarlet Spider from Ultimate Spider-Man can be a character, this would be hilarious for them to do, like the funny '70s music, like with him crawling around, and like using the one web and being an older Peter Parker, because we have seen them talk about
Old Man Peter.
Why not?
I mean, he's going to be turning 75 in May. You could bring him to do the audio work and make it happen. And I mean, he still kind of looks the way he, kind of did. Just not the big poofy hair.
And I love the reason for their cancellation, but go ahead, Rick.
Oh, I grew up with this too. I really loved it. Like this had to have been one of my earliest experiences. Between this and Electric Company, they had to have been some of my introductions to it. Yep. In addition to, like, my brother's 5 years older. He was born in '71. So like he had comic books, and he had like how to draw Marvel comics the Marvel way with like that big classic Spider-Man. So like I was familiar with the character. I saw this show. I was like, oh, that's cool. He'd climb walls. He'd have the webs, and ride a motorcycle with a helmet. And it was like, there was just a lot of fun stuff in it. And for a kid, it was just like, oh, that's cool. Like the idea of it being more real. It was airing, like it existed alongside, or I guess sort of at the same time, we were also getting Incredible Hulk, right? With Bill Bixby and so it was like,
Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was so cool to see this stuff. There was also a Captain America that
yes.
movie that popped up.
And that there was technically two Captain America movies where he was driving around in that big conversion van with his motorcycle, and that was something.
And from a helmet. But at the end of the day, I do think it's interesting. I hadn't thought about this, but I love that brought it here because there is between all those things that we just mentioned, even Bill Bixby, Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
There's a connection to sort of Japanese tokusatsu, henshin, like hero kind of things. Like, yeah, Incredible Hulk, all of them really. The whole idea of henshin transformation, right? That whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, that was Incredible Hulk. We'd get that moment. You'd see the muscles come out. That was his henshin moment. With Spider-Man, it's the same thing. He's got to put on his costume. I just never thought of it this way until you guys put this slide after the VR Troopers and that. But that's cool. That's a cool connection.
And that's kind of the line I wanted to draw for comparison's sake, because you have to look at CBS canceled this show because they didn't want to be known as a superhero network, right? So I was looking at the timeline of shows that had come out on television. You had the Bionic Man, the $6 Million Man. You had the
Bionic Woman. Yes.
You had Hulk, and you had Spider-Man existing at the same time. And mind you, this is also the time in the 70s where you guys had Superfly, Shaft. You had characters that were larger than life characters.
Yep.
Doing things in a universe that were like, this was very commonplace. Mind you, at the same time, you had Kung Fu, the original Kung Fu show with
David Carradine, Kwai-Ching King. Yeah.
You had all these shows, and even Green Hornet before all that with Bruce Lee. We had these shows. Adam West Batman was on CBS.
Allison's bringing up. We had Wonder Woman. Then she brings up. We had Captain Marvel. That was a really bad show.
You're right.
ISIS was a Saturday morning TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It ran along the blocks with all the Saturday morning cartoons, so we can't forget about that.
Also, Sid and Marty Krofft, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Do you see what you see that, like, I had to connect the dots for people because I didn't have the dots connected till Dave and I. And it's funny, you inspired this, and I'm not saying this because you're on the show and you know me. You getting to know how I think. I thought about what you said, and it brought up this interest in me to say, why are we not having these dialogues as fans?
Cool.
We need to have dialogues about these shows because guess what? That time period, as radical.
Oh, that time period.
As red as it was.
As radically different as that time period was.
Yeah.
Look at the effect it had on the 90s.
Oh,
because
totally.
guess what? If we didn't have these shows in the 70s, we would have never had the superhero rise of films in the 90s, which would have never led to Blade, which would have never led to the MCU.
Well,
we would have never had that timeline.
Well,
go ahead,
Brick.
Oh, I was just going to say there was a period after this where they embraced the action hero, but then took out all the super and the fantasy. Yeah. So it was like you had Magnum P.I. and his big, like, cool thing was like he whatever, had Hawaiian shirts and a red car. Like, fine, that's cool, but that's nowhere near as cool as Spider-Man's motorcycle and shooting webs, right? But we had that. We had A-Team, which I loved, but again, it was like, that's a cool van, but it doesn't transform into a robot or like
Knight Rider.
So there was that period.
That was Knight Rider.
Yeah. So it seemed like they still wanted to flirt with the genre.
Yeah.
You get Automan too, but then not really embrace it. Yes. Automan was probably the one that sort of like
with Desi Arnaz Jr.
Yeah.
But like
Kenzo brought up MacGyver.
Yes. Why do you think I carry a little Swiss Army knife with me everywhere? Come on.
And duct tape.
Exactly. But
yes.
When you look at these things, like you said, I think
what are you talking about?
That interest.
Yeah, there you go.
I got it right here. But the thing is, like you were talking about how we had the TV shows, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if it wasn't for those TV shows, Incredible Hulk spawned three TV movies. Because you had the Return of the Incredible Hulk, which also featured our first live-action Thor.
Yep.
Okay.
It was a little weird, but we still had it.
Yeah, we had the Trial of the Incredible Hulk, which gave us our first live-action Daredevil and Kingpin. Kingpin was played by John Rhys Davies, who we know from Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones, and so much more, Sliders. But, you had, in fact, the actor who played Daredevil was actually in Street Hawk. But we only got an all-black Daredevil. It was what it was.
Which they nodded that in the show.
And then we had Death of the Incredible Hulk. So that kind of kept Marvel TV movies kind of going on for a while. So it kept something going on.
I remember that. Yeah.
But were they great? No, but I loved them because
man, were you guys
Bill
when you heard
Bixby.
that they were coming? When those were coming on, like it's particularly like when the Return. This is well after the show's over. They're starting to do movies, and then Thor was coming on. Man, I was so excited as a kid.
Oh yeah,
like, we're gonna have Thor, and then the trial, and you're like, wait, they're gonna do another one, and then you hear freaking Daredevil's in it. Man, I was as a
and
kid.
they were very
like,
comic accurate because Eric Masterson was the Thor that we got.
Yes,
when he threw that cane, when he threw the cane at the car, the lightning. You see the cane become Mjolnir in the lightning bolt, and becomes a cane again. I mean, they were for any true Marvel fans that did not know that, Eric Masterson is not, it was a human that became worthy of Thor, not Thor becoming a human. It was a guy that had gotten the hammer and became, like, worthy, much like Beta Ray Bill and Storm and several other characters that people forget about in the Marvel canon because we only think of Thor.
I love what Allison's putting here. Magnum PI now steals old people's houses. He's probably a bad example.
Oh, my mother-in-law loves him. We bought her his book.
And hey, and Magnum PI was the inspiration when they did Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. They had, Chip dressing up. You had Dale dressing up as Magnum PI. You had Chip dressing up as Indiana Jones. So there you go.
You can't argue the logic of what they did.
I'm just saying.
But that's the thing. Like, I think when you look at it coming full circle, these shows that we crack jokes about, even if they're corny or campy, you got that shit now. People talk that the Arrowverse, which we are going to cover that at some point, the Arrowverse was probably one of the best, almost 20-year-long series of superhero shows. Yeah, but they were still considered campy. Oh, well, Tom Welling doesn't fly, and oh, look at the Flash. Run, Barry, run! I mean, that's campy, but guess what?
I'm biting my tongue right now.
I know you're biting your tongue. I did this on purpose. There's a reason why. But I'm going to give you an example, folks. The shows were so popular, my brother named his firstborn Oliver after Oliver Queen.
No kidding.
Perfectly timed right there.
Yeah, just so my son's name is Brandon after Brandon Lee. Our daughter Lana is named after Lana Lang. Lorelai is named after Lorelai Gilmore. My wife and I have been inspired. These shows touched our lives.
I love it.
So it's you can't write the book on that. These things inspire.
Dre knows one of the hot toys I have is Barry from the first 2 seasons of Flash.
Yep.
Is there a Lorelai Gilmore hot toys? Because there should be.
There should be, and my wife would probably want it because I bought her everything Gilmore Girls. And
Allison, I agree with that 100% because I have the DVD.
I do too.
Of the show, but I have it signed.
Yeah, that's why I hate him.
I have it signed by John Wesley Shipp himself.
Acknowledge, folks, any young people in the audience or anybody, whatever, maybe not even that young, who are frustrated with the MCU or don't like that we don't have a good DC universe. Like, man, just go back to some of these old shows and you will be happy that you have what you have.
Oh yeah,
I'm not taking anything away from these things. We enjoyed them. I was excited
for the 90s. For the 90s, the Flash TV series was great. It completely went off script with a lot of it.
Yeah.
And hell, you wrote out Iris. You went a completely different route, and we didn't have the internet as it was now back then. I mean, back in 1990, the internet was still in its infancy. People were just learning how to, put a floppy disk in a computer, really, for Christ's sake. But even hardcore fans, they still love the show. We liked the storyline between, it was the will they or won't they type of like Lois and Clark, moonlighting type vibe with Barry and Dr. Tina McGee. It was great, and they were fantastic, and I loved it in CW when they brought her on to reprise her role as Tina McGee, and it's a different type of Tina, but they got her to play opposite of Barry's father, who was played by the original Flash. So they did a lot of great fan service. Some of the later seasons are questionable, but the first couple seasons were really great.
And
Sorry, I had to do it.
I
What?
love it. The old
There you go.
AOL, the old AOL. You got
I had to hear it. I had to hear it when you were talking about the old internet in its infancy. I will just say that I didn't think about this, but like a lot of people will wonder, like, dude, why are you going to see that DC movie, or why are you going to watch that Star Wars thing? I've realized that even as a kid, whenever there was something that was remotely sci-fi or comic book related, I had to check it out. Because like as you're talking, I'm like, man, I watched Generation X on Fox.
Oh,
like
God.
that
Do
was
on syndication on the weekends, right?
but I had to. Oh no, that's Mutant X.
Oh,
Maybe you're thinking about Mutant X. That was.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
They actually did a Generation X
cartoon,
show.
right?
No, it was a live
TV
action.
show. It was a live action, like one shot kind of thing. I don't think it went very far, but it was based on the comic book Generation X, and it was like fairly accurate in terms of the characters they included and stuff. Super obscure. Not a lot of people remember it because it like.
Oh no, I do. I just pulled it up. Max Fuhrer was in it. Okay.
Yes, the second they announced it, I was like, I need to watch it. And even if I didn't like it or whatever, I was just like, I have to watch it. And that has trained me to think this day. I was like, wait, what Marvel movie's coming out? Okay, I'm gonna go watch it. Regardless,
they have the TV pilot. The hour and a half TV pilot is on YouTube.
Yeah, what I want to see that I never got to see, and I always was wanting to like see somewhere. I know they used to sell them at cons. Was the Justice League TV pilot that never went anywhere? Have you heard of this?
Oh God, I've heard of it.
During that time, people in suits.
I've
and
seen it.
I've
The really bad outfits. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. That was one that missed me. But I don't know. I just love this stuff, and same goes, like to come full circle. And I know we'll get there eventually. But when Power Rangers came out, even though I was in high school, a little older, and I wasn't paying attention to like it really skewed young. It was meant to skew younger, but I still had to check it. I still had to watch it. Even VR Troopers, even though I didn't have it my first year of college, when I went home for summer and I had more channels, I watched it because I kind of just had to. I was a child of the genre, I guess. I don't know.
And I want to tie two things.
No, the internet said.
The internet said no.
How about new? How about new?
So you can hear us when you cut out?
Exactly. Yeah, I hear you guys for like a second, then it cuts me out. So what's interesting is that CBS didn't want to be a superheroes channel, right? But when you look at that, they're the Trek channel for over 50 years.
Oh Lord, yeah, that's the one.
Oh my Lord, Jesus.
That's the one.
I need to see this.
No, you don't. You really don't.
Please
show a Martian Manhunter in the dark.
Let's see if I can pull this. No, they're just talking about like the different iterations. There you go.
There it is.
Oh my God.
There's Adam.
What's with that Cro-Magnon man brow for Flash? Me, Flash. I run fast.
It's aerodynamic.
Run.
My point in bringing this up is, one, I enjoyed the genre stuff. Two, seriously, stop complaining about the MCU, guys. It could be much worse. That's all.
Complain about the stuff that we need to be seeing, like Shang-Chi, and like stuff that was good that we're not getting till like years later. But
Archer says he was excited for Generation X until he saw it.
Yeah, I was too. It was such a
she's got digital copies saved somewhere. There you go. Watch
Allison,
party.
Allison, we got to do a watch party. She's another one that needs to come on here because she is such a great repository. I love this. I love her point of view, and she knows I respect the hell out of her for it. So I would love to have her on. Allison, I will be bringing you on with Dave, and I will be trying to find a show that I want to bring you on. If you like,
there's
totally.
Yeah, there's plenty we can do.
So when you again, and like part of why I love the Sentai Tokusatsu genre, and like I said, this is part one. We're gonna bring up Saban, Common Mass Rider, and Common Rider, and y'all know where I sit on the fence with that one.
And the Uncommon Rider, what?
Yeah, and then we have. Let's not also
my son, 11 years old, made that joke today.
And then we would definitely the next one we're going to talk about the Big Bad Beetleborgs because that's also Metal Men, and I have to mention it. I have to, but those are going to be the next two, and that's going to be in a couple weeks.
But do you have to?
I do because I just want to talk shit about it, and I love it. And having Brick come back on so he can sit with us
Oh,
talking
man.
shit about it
Oh,
is going to be even
God.
more fun. So
Respect for trying to use Universal Monsters in some kind of weird way. guys. So,
yeah,
whatever.
let's just put on Universal Monsters and give it a shitty facelift when it didn't need it. If Bela Lugosi's Dracula didn't ever need to be ever be a Sentai character, but let's try that, man. I'm not gonna. We'll save that for next episode. But folks, when you are thinking about this genre, stop looking at the campiness and look at what you see as campy in the shows you watch. Because people could look at Knight Rider as campy, a guy talking to a talking car.
Oh yes.
You can look at the A Team as four guys that are in a truck and they drive from town to town. Yeah, but guess what?
And they don't kill anybody with all the bullets they shoot.
But nobody, I'm going to say this, don't hassle the Hoff. Don't ever talk shit about A-Team because A-Team was a great film, and I wish they did more.
A pity fool.
You know, I mean, there's so much more, and maybe Dave and I will actually, if you guys are interested, comment
Airwolf.
below and ask us, and tell us if you guys would like us to talk about shows of the 80s. I know a lot of these shows Dave and I grew up on, and Brick grew up on, Airwolf, and, you know, and all that. If you guys want us to talk about those shows, I gladly will. I know Dave would. So if you drop a comment below.
There's too many shows we can talk about. I mean, hell, we could talk about Greatest American Hero. We can talk about
theme song alone.
It's interesting because I was on with Mega J when we were discussing about the live action Masters of the Universe being made. And as bad as the 87 movie was, it might not be as bad as this new one is going to be. I mean, we'll see what happens. A story goes a long way.
Oh, Charlie's Angels. Yes, that's a whole.
Charlie's?
I would do a whole episode just dedicated to Charlie's.
We're talking about classic Charlie's, right?
And yes, classic.
Okay.
But we would have to talk.
That's my spouse's favorite. When she was growing up in the Philippines, they would get she would rent VHS copies of it, and she loved it as a kid.
Episodes about 80 shows, yes, please. Okay, so we're getting a lot of positive. So hey, I mean, I'm all for it. Dave and I will do it. It's on the schedule. I mean, us out all the way to April.
We could even now hear me out. We can even take it so far as to compare to the 80 shows that have now been rebooted. Because you've had the Equalizer on, I think, CBS for the past couple of years.
5 seasons it's done.
Yeah, with where they gender flopped or swapped with having Queen Latifah in it. Apparently, it's done very well. There's rumors of a Golden Girls reboot.
No.
No, I'm just saying that as an example.
It's a great show. Leave it where it's at. Just leave certain ones.
Knight Rider has been brought back so many times. There was Team Knight Rider in the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah,
but there was a Knight Rider that was brought back in 2008. It wasn't bad, but the showrunners kept taking it in different directions, and that's what really killed it.
You mean the truck that was Val Kilmer, and it was not a car anymore? It was a truck?
No, it was a Mustang. It was a GT KR 2007 Mustang KR edition. In 2 episodes, he did turn into a pickup, but then he turned back. He was able to turn into different vehicles.
Yes,
I didn't
like Val Kilmer voicing the car. That's an aside. But in any event outside of all that, what I want us to. This is going to be, like I said, an ongoing series where we will talk about the Japanese version, American version. You guys will get to come back and see this. I know that we are kind of wrapping things up, so I wanted to ask Brick, what's going on with you? Tell us anything you got going on, any plans, what's coming on your show. It's your time to talk.
Sure. Main thing is just this Sunday and every Sunday at around 3:45 Pacific time, I do a thing called The Needless Ephemera We Saw, aka the news. But I bring on a guest, and this week it's going to be my buddy Quip, which is awesome. It's his first time ever streaming, but you know Quip from chats. He's everywhere in terms of like just being there. So I love doing that. I love just talking with folks that like people don't know enough. And we're just gonna hang out, talk toys. That's what I do every week, and that's pretty much it for now. I know that's not true. On Sunday, this Sunday, I forgot. Every month, we also do a live thing around Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, which is this figure I got here, and we're kind of we'll be doing sort of updates and stuff around where this line is, talking with the creator, Jason of Spiro. And those are the two main things I've got right now, other than just shooting shorts. I'll be shooting. I haven't done these guys yet, but I kind of just go through my collection and kind of document it, and love just sort of seeing it. I call them the card back because it looks like a card back. But anyway, that's about it. I'll probably be hanging out on the clubhouse tomorrow over on Oz's, but yeah, the main thing every Sunday, my channel, Brick Something. Come hang out.
Folks, you need to. It's a fun show. I've gotten the privilege to be on there with him, and it is hilarious. The times that I got to get on there and we got to chat was amazing. So please check him out.
And Dre, what do you have going on this week?
Well, if you guys did not see the premiere of my first episode of the Father Figures podcast, it was dropped today, and comments were fixed on it, so I apologize that comments were not fixed. It was some issue with me publishing it. I had to fix it. But it was part 1 of the 5-part series I'm going to be doing on representation in cartoons. The next one will be dropping next Friday at noon. And it's going to be Spidey and His Amazing Friends. And we're going to talk about that show. And I did leave Black Panther off of it because everybody knows Black Panther. We're going to talk about Reptile and the other characters on the show. I felt like they needed a little bit more spotlight shown on them, especially with White Tiger. She's been on the show, and then we're going to see them in White Tiger in the Hector Ayala is going to be in Daredevil in March, coming up in a few months. So I would like to mention that, kind of dropping that in there, but you'll be able to see that recorded and and loaded up for Friday, and then Dave and I will be back next Friday for our next episode of the show. Which, do you mind if I drop the title now, Dave?
Go right ahead. I'm curious to know.
So I know Dave doesn't know because I shuffled things around. So we're going to be doing horror remakes. We're going to pick 2 films, and we're going to talk about the original film. And obviously, as a nod to something Dave had brought up a while back, he loved this actor a lot, and it was the original Candyman. We're going to talk about him.
Tony Todd.
Tony Todd was amazing.
Let's bring Dre back.
R.I.P. to Tony Todd. R.I.P. to my internet, which will be new in the new house, folks. So I apologize.
I mean,
one more week of this crap, and then it'll be perfect in the new house.
I mean, Tony Todd.
Follow you.
Tony Todd. He's been everywhere. I mean, recurring character of Kern on Star Trek: The Next Generation, Worf's brother. I mean, everything from Candyman to The Crow to hell, he was on CW The Flash as Zoom, the voice of Zoom. Mm-hmm. He's been everywhere.
Was his last thing on Motu Revelation?
He was on Motu.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was Skull God, wasn't he?
Yeah. Did he do anything after that?
No,
he was Scareglow, I think.
He was Scareglow, and then he passed away. Same with our boy. Oh God, why is it escaping me? Kevin Conroy. That was like Merman was his last. Everybody was like, "Oh, Merman wasn't his last."
No, he did record some stuff for DC.
He did record a few things, which is going to be releasing in an unnamed Batman game. We're getting supposedly next year. Rumor has it if WB Studios is still up and running with all their problems they're having at WB. If that ever gets aired to light, the day of light, we will have that as well. But his last official voice acting was done in the Motu series as Merman. But we're going to be talking about that, and then we're going to also be talking about Poltergeist. Ironically enough, Dave brought that up, but we're going to be talking about the old Poltergeist film and the remake they did years later. And this is also going to spring up another series. So,
I actually never saw the remake.
I actually have it. I'll find it for you, and I'll send it to a digital copy to you. But that's what I'm working on. Dave, what are you working on?
Well, actually, of course, every Tuesday night I do Tuesday night talks. So you guys want to come out and hang out? I have nothing specifically planned. However, maybe we'll do a hot toy unboxing. We'll see what happens. But we'll see what is going on because there's a lot of craziness going on in just in collecting in general, I'm going to do some hunting tomorrow, see if we can actually find something. Because I'm picky, but I was talking a couple weeks ago about possibly getting rid of my Masterverse. And I went and bought 4 Masterverses on a nice little bundle deal on eBay. So, because I actually enjoyed Revolution and Revelations.
I did too.
I know there's a lot of people that gave it a lot of crap, but I actually really enjoyed it. So we'll see what happens. I got some stuff to unbox. I'm still reorganizing the dimension. I am 3D printing parts for the 2-in-a-box ghost trap. So I've been doing a lot more 3D printing. So you guys are going to see a lot of that coming my way.
I love the old school 80s poltergeist.
Carolyn.
They're here.
There you go.
Allison, I'm going to be reaching out to you. I'm going to reach out to you after the stream so I can see if I can get a date on the books for you for the towards the end of February.
I was trying to hide myself with the poltergeist.
I like that.
There we go.
So if you guys are interested, Allison, like I said, I'll be reaching out to you to get that on the books. And like I said, I'd love to pick your brains. Anybody else, like I said before, Dave and I always love having guests on the show. We do this for fun. We are glad to be back. The Brothers of Destruction and Deconstruction are back. We're staying back, and no one's going to stop us. We're going to be, this year is going to be made our bitch. I already have been on a roll with making major changes in my life. Dave's doing it too. I'm proud of my brother. I'm proud of all my brothers and sisters doing well nowadays. And like I said, you'll be seeing the new office in 2 weeks. And, the new internet speed, new house. And hopefully at that time, Dre will have a new job position. And if that's the case, it's going to be on this year. So be expecting more.
It's going to be, he's going to be moving up to pimp now. No, I'm kidding.
I wish.
No, next week, Dre's going to, because he's packing, getting ready to move, he'll be streaming on a cardboard box next week. So get ready for that.
It's just going to be worse. You're just going to see a lot more shit cluttered around me. So I apologize in advance.
Oh. To borrow a phrase from a very famous robot from the 80s, shit? Where's he shit? I see no shit.
And Allison, yes, I would love to color with you I would love to do that and have Rory sit with us to color. So you send me those pages, the 3 of us can color together. That would be freaking fun as hell. There
you go.
You're killing me, Dave. I didn't know that reference. What was it?
Short Circuit?
The robot. Was that from Short Circuit? Okay.
That was from Short Circuit 1. Yep.
It's been a while. Hard to revisit.
So, Brick, you, like I said before, you're always welcome back. I'm going to have you back here on the show with me and Dave in a few weeks. We're going to be doing on the hero's journey. That's actually going to be, so we're off 1 week. Every 5 episodes, we're going to be off for a week. It's going to give Dave and I a chance to.
What day is that going to be? Is that going to be the 14th?
You think? It's Valentine's Day, so we're not going to be on that week. Obviously, I have Valentine's Day with 3 girls in the house. And we're going to be going to see Captain America. So,
right.
We're planning to see Captain America. Hopefully, it's not a day like today where I didn't get out until. Normally, I get out at 5 p.m. Eastern. I didn't get out and didn't log off until 6:40 p.m. So, and we're trying to see a 6 o'clock show for Captain America: Brave New World. So, that's going to be interesting. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we already got our tickets. And for those of you that don't know, on Marvel Rivals, if you play the online game, that's free. If you purchase your tickets through the Regal app, you get a free color spray for the game. You get a free banner and a skin. And the idea that the skin is going to be a skin from Red Hulk that you can put on the Hulk. People are trying to say it's Captain America Sam Wilson. I said, no, it's not, because they would not want to reskin Captain America. Because Captain America is not the least played character. Hulk is very well played. So definitely, if you guys did buy your tickets to Regal, they will send you a code. And if you guys are psyched about that, I am as well. Check it out. The buckets are cool too. Dave and I will probably talk about this too on the show because
This is the one I'm aiming for, is the AMC bucket.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I haven't
for the
seen
Regal
it.
bucket.
What does it do?
It's
shield and a cup holder.
No, this one is just a bucket.
Oh, you didn't see the shield in the bucket? Okay. So they made the backpack.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm not a fan of that one.
It's like a drink and then the bucket, and you lift it up.
Because I think that's Cinemark that's doing that one.
Yeah, Cinemark's doing that.
Were you guys Family Ties kids?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember Buddy's? What was his name? Oh God, it wasn't Buddy. That was Charles. But his friend's cup of noodles. It was like a little thing.
Skip, his buddy Skip.
Yes, they were. I don't know if they stuck in an elevator or something. He had this little thing, and it would expand, and it became a. Anyways, it was just like that. That's where my brain went.
That's dope. So, folks, again, if you guys have not subscribed or are brand new to the channel, hit the subscribe button here with us. Definitely check out Brick's channel. Y'all need to. Yeah, that's the cup holder. I like that one, but I'm not going to see. I'm going to Regal, so I want the Red Hulk ripping the ground up and put the bucket inside of that, or the metal tin that's going to have his face on it. So those are the two buckets I'm looking for. But if you guys haven't, definitely subscribe to Brick. He's just an all-around awesome person. I'm saying that because he's my friend and he's just great. So definitely check him out. Check him out on Sundays. Check him out on the Clubhouse. Big shout out to Oz because that's how I met Brick. You know, he is, again, you check him out in the Clubhouse every Saturday from 9:45 till whenever. I'm going to say that because we've all been on there.
It could be from like 9:45 in Saturday in the evening to 9:45 Sunday morning. Who knows?
And I'm on the West Coast, and I'm usually one who leaves really early.
West Side?
I can't hang with those guys, man.
I've tried.
Up forever.
And if you guys do stay tuned, Mega J Retro, another good friend. He supposedly did say he's going to be signing up to do something later tonight. He is East Coast, just like us. He's our brother up north. Please, Jay, close your windows.
Thank you, Betty Ray.
Your weather is killing me. I need it warm again in North Carolina. Close your doors and your windows.
Hey, as long as he's blaming Jay and not me, I'm good with that.
I love.
I'm not that far from Jay, probably.
No, you're not. You were closer to him.
See.
So definitely, again, Beta Ray, Alice, and to everybody that's come through. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you, guys.
And everyone watching or listening to us in the future, don't forget to subscribe to the Outer Dimensions podcast on YouTube. You can also follow us at the Outer Dim Pod on X, aka Twitter, and of course the Outer Dimension podcast on Instagram. So please don't forget to follow us. And if anyone wants to email us, reach us, maybe you want to be featured as a guest or you have ideas for future episodes or possible collaborations, there is also the Outer Dimension Podcast at gmail.com. And we are going to be here every single Friday with the occasional exception at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So please tune in, have some laughs, watch some guys talk about some crazy stuff, and watch Dre pop in and out repeatedly throughout the entire stream.
Again, I'm saying that for now.
For now.
So watch when it'll change. I'm putting the positive juju out there.
Listen, when you get to the new place, if you're still having those issues, then we will have conversations. We will solve your issues.
Well, like I said, we'll definitely have conversations. But we will definitely.
Hey, there are new advances in Wi-Fi that we can sort out this issue. Trust me.
Oh, yeah, trust me. We will work on it. We will definitely work on it. But we appreciate you guys. Thank you again. Mm-hmm. We're back. We're better. The topics are going to be awesome. Stay tuned and just enjoy.
Until next time, guys, we will catch you on the other side.
Dre and Dave hit it hard in the dark, spinning tales from the void, never bark. Movie shows, they tear apart. Dimensions clash, they